bans to yesterday. We'll get to them in just a second.
Indeed. So, Zed again comes out against the mid lane of Take Fun, so aiming a lot of those bans already towards that mid lane. Syndra as well, LeBlanc and Syndra taken away from Soz Purefect, and again, that's exactly what we saw yesterday in their matchup, where all the bans were focused towards that mid lane, other than a jungle ban as well.
Yeah, this is pretty much very similar bans to we saw all the way through yesterday against N-Faculty and Reason Gaming. We've seen the LeBlanc banned away from Soz Purefect as well as the Syndra. There's just so much going on right now that is almost a mirror of yesterday that maybe we're in for the same thing, but that could not bode well for Reason here because they weren't particularly happy with their picks and bans.
So that's taken away a lot of picks away from that mid lane, but N-Faculty will pick up their AD carry this time around as their first pick. It will be Corki coming in.
Yeah, and that is a big first pick, or has been a big first pick. Of course, did get changed around a little bit, added more travel time to the queue on Corki. And from there, a couple of AD carries have kind of dropped him. A lot of them are still saying that they want to play him, but it just takes a little bit of getting used to. But some big picks over on the side of Reason, as Kubon's Irelia was still available, and we know that was banned away from him yesterday in so many of the games that they played. And alongside that, actually Take Fun is going to go on a bit of a departure from his normal style.
Yeah, so he's picking up the Orianna here. As you mentioned, Irelia was taken away from him pretty much every game. This is the first time he's managed to get his hands on that pick. Of course, so also on the Jax in the final game, so didn't work out, but we'll see if he can do something else with Irelia.
So back to Take Fun on the Orianna. He did play it in Game 3 of the series yesterday and actually did a very good job of it. It's just a little bit of a departure from his assassin style that we normally will see out of Take Fun. He is kind of an all-around mid laner, but Orianna is going to be a far more passive lane. This is telling us that maybe they want to hold something here for Xayah in the jungle. We know Reason like to set different jungle picks up here, and the fact that they haven't instantly gone for something like a Lee or a Pantheon after banning a jungle pick is, I guess, a fairly big tell that they want to give Xayah a favorable matchup for whichever jungler he wants.
But it's left open the Pantheon here, which will be taken here by Obvious, and then it looks like it will be indeed the Sona coming into the bot lane. So we do have that bottom lane completely fleshed out here, and that's kind of like harkening back to Season 2, where we used to see Sona Corki all the time, a big burst lane.
Yeah, it is a strong burst lane. It also is going to take away a couple of the supports that Libic may want to play there. You couldn't really look to put a Janna with that or anything, as Sona kind of out-damages and out-sustains Janna in lane. On the other side, we know Libic likes to play the Thresh. We know they also like the setups with different junglers for melee range tank support. So we'll see what exactly they're going to lock in for that support role.
What Reason Gaming have locked in, though, is the Elise again coming in from Xayah. They spoke about it on the analyst desk. He did decide to go for the Juggernaut enchantment. We'll see if he does that again in this game. And then again, Ezreal has been picked up here by Celaver. And in response, a fast Ahri lock-in for the mid lane of Soz Purefect.
Yeah, the Elise was a little underwhelming, as Deficio was talking about. That Juggernaut first really just meant that he didn't have that early game pressure. We saw an Elise later in the day build the Magus and start outputting huge amounts of damage, and that is what Xayah is going to need here to live up to the expectations, because they need to get him going early on, and against a Pantheon, that could be very difficult.
Yep, so this Ahri pick, of course, coming in from Soz Purefect here. We saw this again yesterday. Did well on that pick. See if he can do the same thing.
Oh, wow.
And this is something that's completely gone through the net, and indeed we didn't even pick up on it. Gnar has made it all the way through the bans, and pretty much all the way through Champion Select as well.
I'm so used to kind of just assuming Gnar is banned that when Irelia was locked in, I was just thinking, okay, Irelia is the next best, but Gnar into Irelia tends to be a decent matchup for Gnar. This time, though, Xaxus, Kubon both have experience against each other, both former LCS players, and at this point, you have to think they let Gnar go through and didn't pick it. Maybe it was because of Kubon's games yesterday on Gnar. It was a little bit lackluster.
Yeah, maybe just leaving that open for them like we saw yesterday, Stress, and maybe they can just play around it. That seems to be the game plan currently for Reason Gaming, and they do solidify their lineup, coming in with Alistar as their support pickup. Yeah,
we saw that yesterday out of Reason in the game that they picked Lulu, but I want to talk about a little bit about the N-Faculty composition right here, because it screams a lot of AoE at this point. You've got the Pantheon ultimate, the Sonar Engage. Corki has a lot of AoE damage. Ari as well in that mix. And then the Gnar ultimate on top of it. There is just so much on N-Faculty's teamfighting style here that Reason have to be a little bit careful with their composition. That's not to say they don't have it themselves. Alistair Engage into a Shockwave is always going to be a big difference maker in team fights.
Yeah, of course, the ball delivery system with Alistair here will be huge when we get into these team fights, so we'll see if that comes to fruition for these teams. Again, we're seeing the Ezreal coming out here, Stress. We saw this yesterday, and we saw basically a blue build coming out. We even saw an Essence Reaver.
But this is a departure from what Celaver was doing yesterday. He picked Graves in all 3 games in yesterday's series, and we've heard that Graves is typically a good lane up against Corki, and with the Corki first pick you might expect it. So obviously something's gone on in the Reason gaming camp that they really weren't happy with yesterday's games. They even got ahead on Celaver on Graves in the bottom lane in all 3 games. Just couldn't really utilize that as they headed into the mid game. Yeah,
I mean, that's the most important thing, being able to get out of the laning phase well, and then, of course, transitioning into the mid game and making it count. So we are now getting onto the Rift with our very first best of 5 of today, coming in here between Reason Gaming and N-Faculty. Of course, it will be Kubon in the top lane, Xayah in the jungle, Take Fun in the mid lane, Celaver and Libic in the duo for the bot lane.
And on the blue side, we got Xaxus up in the top lane, Obvious in the jungle, SozPureFect in the mid lane, Cedrian and Mountain down in that bottom lane.
Yes, indeed. So make sure to hit us up on Twitter at LOL Esports using the hashtag LCS Expansion to join the discussion and see how you think this elimination match will go in this best of 5. One of these teams, it will be the end of the line. They will be going home and back to the Challenger Series, whereas the other team will be having another shot at qualifying for the LCS.
Yeah, and I mentioned as we were heading into this game, 2 former Roccat players. You got Xaxus and Celaver, and one of them is going to be spending the spring split in Challenger. So that is a bit of an interesting rivalry. Has to be a little bit awkward for the two as they face off against each other. But this top lane, I think, is going to be a very contested matchup here as we head into the game. We haven't really seen a lot of Gnar and Irelia in the same game in Europe before. So this is a little bit of a different picks and bans phase to what we are used to seeing.
Indeed. So now in the bottom river here, do you of course see them just warding up? It will be the Vision game coming in. We'll see if these two teams decide to do anything in the early game. We did see some action in a couple of the best of 5s that we saw yesterday, but doesn't look like they're too interested right now.
So Krepo's been talking a lot throughout the entirety of the games we've seen so far about how important deep warding is, if you can get early deep wards into the enemy jungle. And these are actually all fairly shallow wards when you look at it. They're all along the river just to spot out what people are doing. And it's kind of just a more defensive start than trying to figure out where the enemy jungler is. I think Krepo might have something to say about that as we head into, well, at the end of this game, because there is a lane swap, and without the wards there, they may not have really figured this one out.
Yeah, so Reason Gaming are going to be lane swapped up against them here in the bottom lane. Libic and Celaver should be able to take away the Grump with no real difficulties. And Xayah on Elise, of course, the range champion, and those Spirelings to tank up as well, will be helping him out a bunch in the early jungle clear. But the top lane, Cedrian and Mountain, putting down the pain onto Kubon. And it will be N-Faculty looking for this lane swap, bringing Gnar to solo lane.
Yeah, and Cedrian up in that top lane pretty much set the lane up how he wanted it, managed to pull it into the bush and make sure that they can get it in the position to freeze Kubon out for as long as possible here. But Xayah and Libic are looking maybe to get their own aggressive play off here. They're going to beat Pantheon to this second buff here, and I wonder, is Pantheon going to read this kind of playstyle and head to the enemy red? Doesn't actually look like it.
Yeah, Obvious is actually just taking his own Merkwolves here, and then Xayah should be able to get away with this Bramble back. Libic is going back to base already. It'll be interesting to see if they donate over the experience, because he is still only level 1. All of that going to Celaver for his early level 2. And Xayah takes away the red buff. The question now is, does Obvious go into the opposing jungle and look for the other red?
That is a good question, because it's going to be a little while until he actually figures it out. So depending on the warding that Reason can get, they may be able to secure their own as well. But this is a full-on invasion here out of Reason. They want to take away everything, but I think Obvious kind of can smell what's up here.
Yeah, he turns the corner into Alistair and Elise and decides he wants none of that. But again, he turns another corner and his red buff is gone.
Yeah.
So what does he do now? Xazas just finds them on the way out, but they already knew they were there.
Yeah, I mean, he's also going to spot the red buff on Elise and say, there's no way you could have been on your red and then down at my Krugs this early on. But are they going to spot Elise heading over to the middle lane? Soz Perfect. He's going to read this one out. I think they may have just clipped the vision. Yeah,
he was just on the Pantheon there, taking up those Raptors. But Soz Perfect will not be ganked in the early game here. Zayu heading up to his own red buff, but Mountain now coming in here to ward this up. This is a little bit risky, but Zayu, of course, is not going up there immediately and is now still hanging around in the middle lane.
Yeah, he is hanging around. He's going in this time.
Here comes the Repel, the Venomous Bite as well. A will be flashing away from the Cocoon, is ticking down from the Ignite. Shouldn't be enough damage to finish him off. As Obvious comes in from the north side, but Sona is there to meet him and will be able to heal him up.
And Take Fun flashed in. I think he was expecting Zayu to Cocoon earlier. It looked like Zayu just wanted the flash, but Take Fun wanted the kill, and he used double summoners there. And although now both flashes aren't available, the Ignite on Ahri, once they reach about level 6, could prove to be very detrimental to Take Fun's health here, but it's top lane.
Libic coming into the top lane, looking for this gank. There's the Pulverized combo coming in. Mountain dropping low, the flash as well from Kuban. Will be Libic finding himself the first blood.
And it's a little bit different timing there at a Libic. We've seen supports go up to their solo laner a lot earlier on in the game, but the amount of pressure that was being applied in the bottom side jungle meant that Libic was late to that. And what N Faculty were doing was trying to just be as greedy as possible, sitting up as far into the lane as they could, and that's just good punishment there from Libic.
Yeah, it will mean that the bottom lane is a one-on-one between Xazas and Celaver down there, which is it's kind of funny in a way that we're actually seeing the two old team members going up against each other. And right now, it is Celaver coming out ahead as he just able to outrange Xazas.
Yeah, indeed. Let's take another look at how this game has started with regards to items. Are we seeing anything different? Not really, not too yet. We're seeing Zayu with the Stalker's Blade, which I wonder whether he'll go for the Magus or go for the Juggernaut again. I honestly hope he goes for the Magus. It would make a lot more impact than potentially the Juggernaut would.
Well, Libic heading into the bot lane here. Xazas is caught out. He is in Mega Form, doesn't have the ultimate either, and actually interrupts him during his crunch. Will be jumping forwards Celaver with the Arcane Shift. Xazas drops low and has to go back to base here.
Yeah, Xazas is under a little bit of pressure here in this bottom lane, but as for CS and everything like that, it's roughly even between most of the lanes, and this is another attempted gank by Zayu, but Soz Perfect is reading these fairly well, only just that flash that he pretty much traded with Take Fun in the last one, so it's not going too badly with regards to gank reading in that middle lane, but Soz Perfect is down in CS because of it.
And now Xazas has decided to swap up into the top lane again, so N Faculty went with that early lane swap. Did it benefit them? We'd have to take a look at that in greater detail, because now they've swapped up again, so they want Xazas to go in that one-on-one.
They do indeed, but I don't know whether it's going to be a one-on-one for too long, because you can see mobility boots on Alistar means he's just going to want to roam, and speaking of roaming, Zayu into the jungle.
Yeah, Zayu did manage to take that Wraith away, or rather that Raptor away, but is it worth it? He will be flashing away from the charm from Soz Perfect. So gets back to his jungle, but a flash for a jungle camp, not that worth.
Not worth at all in that kind of situation. Over on the mid lane, again, pretty standard, but the fact is Take Fun is just getting so far ahead of Soz Perfect right now, and Orianna pretty much drags everybody into a skill matchup, and Soz Perfect really hasn't come out of the blocks firing on all cylinders right now, because we were expecting Soz Perfect to be one of the big carries here for N Faculty, and he hasn't really found that groove yet. The question is, can he get there in this game? They're really going to need him to.
Well, 20 farm behind in the mid lane is no small number at 7 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
Top lane, however, is going in favor of Xazas, of course, for N Faculty. Bot lane, likewise, Sejuani is ahead of his counterpart. But that mid lane, as we've mentioned, and so did Analyst Desk, the mid lane is really where the pivot points are for these teams.
Yeah, it is. And I hope, though, Celaver gets a little bit into this game more than he was yesterday. He's going for the blue build Ezreal, and we saw that to great effect in the series against Reason in the last game. So Giants pulled that out. Reason kind of crumbled underneath it, and it looks like Reason have just said, okay, well, we'll take a lot of Giants picks here and
yeah,
see what we can do with them.
Copy paste it and see if it works. That is Reason's aim right here in top lane as well. Zayu was looking for the potential gank onto Xazas. as he is in mini form, has great mobility using that hop. So Xayou heads back to his jungle, will be clearing this one out. As you mentioned before, has picked up the Stalker's Blade, so has Obvious as well. And as you can see here, has picked up the Ruby Crystal, so you would have to think it may be Juggernaut again.
It may be. The other option could be a very early Sightstone. We know that Reason had a lot of problems in their jungle with regards to vision control. That could be one option. It will delay any further damage. I would prefer to see that than the Juggernaut again, because I really think they don't need the Juggernaut enchant when you've got an Alistar, when you've got an Irelia. You need more damage, because Ezreal is going to have less damage in the mid-game phase because he's building this blue build. He needs a good 2-3 items under his belt.
Zaz is actually, with ultimate form, slams Kuban against the wall. Did just use the Nara ultimate there, but uses it more just to push him back, and he will be going back to base regardless anyway. Xayou setting up maybe for a potential dragon play here as he clears out the Scuttle Crab, and maybe in a couple minutes they'll decide to turn their attention to that, but it would be early in the game. So far in the expansion tournament, at least the offline rounds, teams haven't been going for that dragon until around 15 minutes or even later.
Yeah, yesterday, now that we're on 4.21 here for the offline rounds, yesterday we saw people not even taking dragon until the 20-minute mark without a good few kills before it. So I'm not too sure that Reason are going to look for the play anytime soon, but Obvious is looking for a play for himself because he is in position, looking maybe for an ult, but it's always dangerous diving an Alistar, and if Alistar can hit 6 before it, that would almost certainly be a backfiring gank, so you can see Obvious has pulled away.
Indeed, and Xayou was also there in the back lines just in case he went for that dive, reading his opponent jungler very well. 10 minutes into the game so far, only 500 gold advances to Reason Gaming. Nothing to write home about just yet, but they are leading slightly.
So something that kind of is a very slight indicator that Xayou is maybe going, well, I say maybe. He's definitely going to roam a lot more, gank a lot more with those mobility boots this early on. That's something that we've seen players skip out from the jungle, is that you don't get boots unless you want to get into lane as fast as possible, because the enchantments are just so good when it comes to the damage or the stats that they give you. So delaying that is actually quite a big factor, and Xayou needs to make it work for him.
So far, when we look at these item builds, it's just saying to us that Reason Gaming really want to make an impact on the early game compared to their kind of more passive playstyle that we saw yesterday. So already making these changes, let's see if it works against End Faculty, who had similar difficulties, also being 3-0'd by their opponents. Xayou and Take Fun just trying to fight over vision control, but both teams get it down.
Some rather large disparities again, well, I guess maintaining pace here. We can see the mid lane still well in favor of Take Fun, but he's in a little bit of trouble.
Well, Grand Skyfall comes down, but it was the flash already ready from Take Fun, going back to his tower. And, well, an ult for a flash, not bad going.
Yeah, not bad going at all. They will take that, especially with Soz Perfect being a little bit behind in this lane, quite a bit behind on CS. So now maybe he'll have the position in lane to keep things going his way. But Xayou is looking for this top lane, but they've kind of mismanaged the timing on this. As this is about to transform, and that's not the time that you want to go in, Zayu's going to back away.
Yeah, I mean, he'd have to wait around for another 15 seconds for Gnar to calm down and go back into mini form, and that's just not worth it.
Yeah, it's not worth it. And the answer to the question we had earlier about that Ruby Crystal was an early Sightstone, so it looks like Reason have kind of reassessed their issues from yesterday, and hopefully we'll see them start to get deeper wards, start to take a lot more control of the enemy jungle, and from their Reason, maybe we'll have a better platform.
We'll see if that is the case. Libic now in the bottom river, just warding up again. There's a lot of focus in terms of vision around the dragon area, so both of the teams very conscious that the other could potentially start it off. But so far, no real movements. Lots of pings onto the opponent wards, however, just making sure they know where they are if they need to clear them out in a pinch. Xayou in the bot lane. I believe he was just tagged by that minion there, so they did see him coming in. They know he's in the bottom side of the jungle.
Yeah, they've now pinged onto him as he crossed that ward as well. But this game, Deficio and Krepo were talking about how these are passive junglers, and that's what we've seen so far. We're 13 minutes in, and Pantheon hasn't even been involved in an assist. Sure, he's got some summoners, but that's only useful if you can then convert that into a full kill. And the same, to some extent, can be said for Xayou. He hasn't really had a lot of impact outside of burning summoners, so both junglers, I feel, need to just make an impact here.
And as you say that, Stress, look at what Zayu is doing right now. He's sitting in the opposing jungle, maybe looking to go into the bot lane as well. Kuban is teleporting into the bot lane. The flash and the Ecolivium Strike will lock him down. Libic knocks away Mountain, trying to pick up more from this one. Celeber picks up one, looking for another here, but Zaz is now joining the fray. Obvious comes in from the jungle. That will be the disengage. Another 1-0 to Reason Gaming.
It was good teleport timing out of Zazas, though, with his rage meter. He'd already built it up. The problem was Reason were backing away. That was a really well orchestrated bottom lane play out of Reason in general. They get the teleport early, make sure they can lock down Cedrian, and from there it's an easy first kill, and the Crab just got headbutted over the wall.
Yep, Crab is juking people for days. Libic maybe trolling his team a little bit there, but they won't be going for the dragon in a little bit of a critical place in terms of HP. Zayu was down to 50%, and knowing that Obvious still had his Grand Skyfall and the Flash and the Smite, a little bit risky.
Yeah, Obvious is waiting for something. I'm wondering, is he looking to ult somewhere? He's just stood still. I have a feeling he's looking to ult mid, and yes, he is.
Yeah, here he goes. Grand Skyfall. Oh, the Shockwave will disengage, but the Charm lands and the Ignite goes down. Obvious will just tap him for the final hit and pick up the kill.
Well, I mean, you can wait around all day as long as you get the kill from it. That is exactly what they needed, and it's going to open up a dragon here for N-Faculty, and with Zayu nowhere around, this is a very easy pickup.
Yeah, a textbook play coming in from N-Faculty, finding the first dragon of the game just around, again, the 15-minute mark seems to be the trend here, and now heads into this blue buff, and with Zayu being back at base, he won't be able to contest this, and Libic just warding it up, so at least they get the timer for themselves.
Yeah, they will get quite a lot from that play when you take in everything into account, and that was what N-Faculty needed. They really needed to get aggressive with Obvious, because he really hadn't had an impact right now. He'd built all the way up to Warrior Enchant on his Stalkers before he'd even got any kind of kill or assist, so that's really not the impact that you want from a Pantheon. The question is, or at least the thing that N-Faculty need to do, is now get this AoE working together, and Libic is looking to go in mid.
Oh, he forces a flash, so again, just a simple roam from Libic will result in that, and those mobility boots are starting to pay off.
Yeah, and he's got the Distortion enchant exceptionally early right now. 15 minutes into the game, and with tier 3 boots, is a major indicator that Libic wants to flash Pulverize all the time. That is what he wants to do again and again, and if they can get that set up with the Shockwave as well, that is a big team fight ultimate that really Reason should be hitting with that enchant this early.
No, we haven't really spoken about Cedrian for such a long time, indeed Mountain either, but he's just been farming away in the bottom lane, and Cedrian here you can just see zoning away Libic, but he's already picked up his Trinity Force at that 15-16 minute mark. He's been basically farming up perfectly, 146 farm here in the bottom lane, and likewise Celeber has just been farming up, so in the bottom lane not been all that much interaction apart from that kill before.
No, there actually hasn't been all that much between the two AD carries, but it was the teleport from Kuban that locked Cedrian in place and allowed them to get that first kill for their team, or second kill for Reason, I should say. Oh, I think it was the first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
You're right the first time.
I doubted myself. Anyway, right, Reason Gaming. Where do they go from here? They need to group now. Well, not now, but soon. As they need to get this combination working.
They do indeed. Top lane as well, Kuban has picked up that Trinity Force. And right now, the pace of the game has absolutely slowed down. 17 minutes right now. And Zayu actually doesn't decide to clear up the crab, just lets it carry on going. Mid lane as well, just going to go ahead and teleport here. So Purefect gets interrupted by Take Fun. It's just saying that you can't feel comfortable in the middle lane while I'm here. Libic now and Zayu heading around the backside. That may have been one of the reasons why he was trying to interrupt him. Volatile Spiraling will come in for the vision, but Obvious is here for the counter gank. Will get the stun down, but in turn the Cocoon comes across. Mountain lands the crescendo only onto Libic as Zayu jukes it with the repel. Now follows up onto the Sonar as well. The flash over the wall gets out of Pulverize. The two AD carries bump heads, and Cedrian kind of trapped in no man's land with all the damage coming across, and now the Shockwave as well. Celeber will just chime in and pick up the kill.
I don't know what Cedrian was doing then. Really, it looked like N-Faculty kind of wanted to chase Libic out, but as soon as he pops that ultimate, they can't really do too much. The other factor here, though, is Zazis up in that top lane has finally established that lead and converted it into the tower, and Libic is looking for something maybe here. He's got flash available.
Gaming will respond. There's the Pulverize combo. Will be flashing over the wall as well to get out of dodge. Picks up another kill and the tower in the mid lane. A pretty worthwhile trade.
This is what Reason needed with regards to Celaver. He got a lead yesterday. He didn't quite get a lead in this game in the laning phase, but now he's got 3 kills. Now he is in a position to deal out a lot of damage, and he's just finished the Manamune as well. And that is going to make Ezreal output quite a lot of damage as we head into the mid game. He's ahead. He is going to be able to keep up with that damage spike, but interestingly enough, he's not opting for the Iceborne Gauntlet. He's opting for a Trinity Force instead. And this is something I've kind of talked about with a couple of AD carries that I'm not too sure on it. You need the extra mobility that the Iceborne Gauntlet is going to give you when running away and catching enemies as well. You can just slow them for days.
Yeah, I mean, we actually saw this in the Four Nations, and they had mixed success when we saw this. So not entirely sure if it will work out. It's maybe a little bit more damage, but he's 3-0 right now. He could build pretty much anything and dish out a ton of damage. It's definitely a far cry from the Essence Reaver we saw yesterday as well. But 4-1 currently, advantage currently to Reason Gaming as well. 1 tower apiece. Dragon spawning in 1 minute 30. You have to feel that will be the next point of contention.
Yeah, you have to feel it would be. But something that's very different from what we'd normally see, especially out of junglers, Xayah has not yet opted for his enchantment on his Stalkers. And normally we see that straight away. And he is in the enemy jungle, so has got a fair amount of health from the items he does have, but Obvious has been caught.
Yeah, Libic finds him with the Pulverized combo. Xayah as well comes in with the Cocoon. Bot lane though, Celaver and Sejuani are going toe-to-toe. And Celaver is absolutely getting the better of that trade. And the rest of the team now heading into the bot lane as well, trying to take this away. Libic off to the side, the headbutt is ready. And the mid lane of Take Fun is also here. Kubon is separated from his team, but he does have the teleport, and indeed so does Xazuz.
And we'll see which one is the first to break here, because this turret is going down pretty quickly, but 4 people of End Faculty being around clears out the minion wave very easily. And from there's not really a lot that Reason can do, because that's one of the problems that Ezreal has, is it's kind of difficult to push a wave on Ezreal when it comes to trying to get into the turret.
Especially when your True Shot Barrage doesn't even hit the minions or the opponents as well.
Yeah, that's always a bit of a tricky thing to deal with.
So we'll be just taking away the red buff here for Obvious. Bottom lane turret should be going down here, and indeed it will. Celaver just comes in with the auto attacks. Mountain and Sejuani sitting here. Xazuz now comes in from the top lane, but he's already in Mega Form. So they want something to happen. They have to do it in the next couple seconds. And Reason Gaming see it, and they just walk away.
Yeah, it's all because Dragon just respawned. They didn't want anybody to take a very fast Dragon. And Reason were in position to at least contest with End Faculty pushing around to it. I think maybe Xazuz thought he had a little bit more time without Kubon being there, but Kubon showed in the middle lane. But this second Dragon is going to be a fairly important one, because obviously now we're on 4.21. We are on the increased tower damage on the second Dragon, and that is going to make sure that whichever team gets it is going to snowball a little bit faster than they would normally do.
Right, so we saw Giants prioritizing a lot with their Jinx that they were playing out, and now clearing out this ward again, using their second sweeper on it to clear that away. Kubon heads into the mid lane, trying to get onto Cedrian. Was able to take that away with the Blade Surge. Sass is also getting poked down by Take Fun. A lot of posturing here, a lot of just staring down, but no decisive movements just yet, as Dragon is alive.
And Xayah just is recalling as well here. And now that he's gone back, if they can catch somebody out, this would be End Faculty's second Dragon. And as yet, Reason haven't picked one up.
And take a look at Xayah. He's actually opted towards the Juggernaut again, and he was building towards that. We were hoping maybe he'd go in a different path, but 22 minutes in, it's been kind of a slower-paced game to what we've been used to between some of these challenger teams. And Xayah does opt towards the Juggernaut, so he's going to be looking for the tankiness, the utility over the front, this upfront damage.
Yeah, and this really has just slowed to a halt right now between these two teams. One of the characteristic things we've seen of 4.21 is typically the more aggressive teams are being far more successful because of the changes to a lot of the snowballing aspects of the game. When you've looked at OGN, when you've looked in yesterday's games as well, all of the teams that have been proactive in the early game, got their jungler going very early on, got into lanes, are typically winning, because you just have so much control over the game that it's actually not too tough to close out a game once you're ahead, once you've got that giant gold lead. But Reason are going to try and establish themselves a bit of a lead with regards to their stats, as this will be their first dragon of the game. Is there an engage here?
Well, 1-to-1 dragons. Oh, the Pulverize comes in. Oh, and Sun Perfect gets destroyed. So does Mountain. Reason Gaming are running over the competition. The Shockwave doesn't hit anybody, with everyone flashing away. Summoners burn across the board from N Faculty, and Reason Gaming firmly come out ahead in that trade.
That was very nearly a bit of an assist for Libic there by headbutting them away, but the True Shot Barrage dealt the final damage. But Reason take the dragon and take the team fight, and they now have established a good lead for themselves here coming into this first game of the best of 5. They need to continue this though. They cannot really sit back and go passive again. But here's the beginning of the fight again. You can see Suz Perfect gets knocked all the way out. The Ignite and True Shot Barrage just enough, but from there you can see how difficult it is to fight against this combination with the Shockwave. You force 2 flashes away, and even though they're not kills, that's some big cooldowns that are not going to be available for the next fight.
And Take Fun's ultimate is almost off cooldown, only 1/3 of that cooldown remaining, and those flashes are nowhere close to being back up. So next time around, when Reason Gaming are itching for a fight, it will just be even easier to land those combos. And you know, we were talking in Champion Select Stress about N Faculty's wombo combo composition with all the damage they can offer. Maybe putting that thought on hold for a second, as Zayu has been caught here, will be juking away from Zaz's, and the Boomerang will only clip the Spiderlings. Kuban is lying in wait though, but Zaz is in his ultimate form, lands the Nara ultimate onto 2. Alistair is into the backside, but everyone is here as well from N Faculty. Spear Shot takes down Kuban. Zayu as well trying to limp away, but Suz Perfect will be getting the Retribution kill onto that Elise.
And Zazas being able to get that ultimate off was a very key factor. You can't let a Nah push both of you into a wall like that. You're going to fall very quickly from that. But meanwhile, Celiva down in that bottom lane did take the inner turret, and that is a big factor. They're going to add to that global gold lead that Reason Gaming already had, and it's causing problems for N Faculty because they need to group for their composition. And if they've got multiple lanes pushing in towards them, it's difficult for N Faculty to actually make the decision of who goes into the solo lane.
So as bad as that looked, picking up those 2 kills, that actually benefited Reason Gaming, finding that bottom turret there, even more global gold. That has put them ahead, the 2 towers over their opponents of N Faculty, and 3,000 gold ahead. They are just winning in pretty much all categories here, but we haven't seen a decisive team fight other than the Dragon one we saw. They have to repeat that success, of course, using that Libic and Take Fun. We've said before about the combo from N Faculty, but Reason Gaming also have that option here with the Shockwave and Alistair Headbutt Pulverized. N Faculty just trying to fight over Vision again, and it's only Libic here who will be able to contest that, places down another few wards, and those sweepers will not be up for another couple seconds.
It's interesting that we're seeing Cedrian build Blade of the Ruined King as the second item on Corki. We see it from time to time. Essentially, he wants the extra survivability in these fights between the active and the lifesteal. The reason it's kind of interesting is because typically the best build, as Zayu maybe gets a little bit caught out here, typically on Corki, the best build between a lot of players is Trinity Force, Eye Edge, Bloodthirster, and then the Last Whisper. Blade of the Ruined King doesn't really come anywhere into the typical Corki build. So, I mean, this is a lot of an investment, and if he gets blown up very quickly in a fight, like we know that a Shockwave combination can do, it's kind of an almost useless item.
Especially when there's a Kuban in the game with Irelia, who's well on his way to his second item. He'll just be launching himself onto that Corki, and he'll be going down in no time flat unless they have some way to peel off the Irelia. And Mountain doesn't necessarily want to just be using his ultimate on one person who's aggressing on his AD carry. Now in the mid lane, it will be N Faculty heading in with this Grand Skyfall as well. Collapses down, that'll be forcing the flash from Take Fun. The middle turret goes down to N Faculty, but they are now on the hunt. Kuban looking for the stun, gets it onto Mountain, and the Shockwave as well eliminates him from the fight. Cedrian gets caught by the Cocoon, but Zadis is into the backside, but he doesn't have his Mega Form. He won't be able to ult them away. Repel comes across. Now Obvious is under attack. Another Equilibrium strike. He'll be going down to the full force of Reason Gaming, and Celiva wasn't even a fight. Now he's arrived. He gets the slow onto Zazid. He'll be following up with the damage. Another Mystic shot. Jumps away, gets the shielding from the turret. He's still ticking down. Zaza survives a 2-0 to Reason Gaming yet again.
And the difference maker is Celaver coming into the fight wasn't even there for the beginning. A really strange teleport from Xaxus. He knew he had to get to the fight, but with no rage at all. He's not exactly the tankiest person going into the backside of the fight. I have to question Celaver on this Trinity Force. It's giving him slightly more damage, but if that was an Iceborne Gauntlet slowing everybody, that could have been many more kills in favor of Reason Gaming.
Yeah, it was only the red buff tick that was going down, which wasn't quite enough, and he had to use the flash as well, as we saw there. So he's a summoner down, and especially as an AD carry, you want to be keeping that summon up as much as possible. 5,000 gold, though, is the lead for Reason Gaming currently, and maybe Soz Pure Effect will be able to even up the scoreboard just a little by taking the bottom turret here. Still 1 tower advantage to Reason Gaming. Kubon finds a recalling Corki. That could have been disastrous from N Faculty had that been found a little bit earlier, but there's the Blade of Rune King being finished off.
I wonder, Celaver has only built 2 blue items now. I'm wondering what's up with that. That's what I'm saying, is like, I don't want to question the man's eyesight, but perhaps colors, maybe he needs to turn colorblind mode on or something like that. No, anyway, he's doing a lot of damage right now. He's 4-0-1. Bloodthirster is going to keep him alive here. So as long as they can get enough slows and disruption from the rest of the team, I don't think it's that big of a factor considering how far he is ahead. But the name of the game now is stay ahead for Reason Gaming. They have a good lead so far, and they're looking to take their second dragon of the game, but there's a lot of poke in these situations, and Sona and Corki are pretty good for that, I've heard.
Yeah, Cedrian throwing out those missile barrages. So most of them are connecting onto Levick, which is his current job, to tank as much of those as possible. Take Fun is making sure to sit on the top side. Oh, a lot of damage coming in from the dragon. Not too happy about all these invaders coming into his home. That was a very fast dragon take. Goes over to Reason Gaming, but now in comes Pantheon, looking to catch someone on the outside. True shot barrage over the wall. Celaver is just as long-range artillery. Xaxus lands the ultimate onto 2, but only gets the stun onto 1. Soz Pure Effect with the true damage portion gets the kill onto Levick, coming in from a last rocket from Cedrian. Only a 1-0 after all this action. The tower still, rather the dragon still went to Reason Gaming, so they are leading in this. Celaver's trying to take point here, but now the teleport from Kubon, it may be a little slow to try and catch up. In fact, it's not. I'm wrong in this one because Xaxus will go down. They pick up 1 kill. Soz Pure Effect goes into Zhonya's. He'll be going down when he comes back up again. A 2-for-1 and a dragon to Reason Gaming.
That's a big play out of Reason. Getting that dragon was a bit of a ballsy rundown as Obvious was around. They could have tried to smite it away, but Reason just did it far too quickly. And from there, yeah, it was a nice ultimate that we'll see in just a second. But dragon has fallen. Obvious, yeah, obviously can't do anything right there, but there's the ultimate. Holds 2 in place for the crescendo, but they only get Libic, and Libic is only a support, and from here, Celaver is untouched right now. He's still got that shield from the Bloodthirster and is looking to chase down. They're going to be able to continue to chase here, and from there, there's not really a lot that can be done by N Faculty. This Kubon is able to jump the gap by getting that Q off onto the minion and then on to Xaxus, and from there, Reason just managed to run them down.
Yeah, I also liked in that team fight, as Pantheon came down, Obvious used the Grand Skyfall, and immediately as soon as he touched the ground, he was immediately met with a cocoon from Xayah, which was a pretty big factor, as they weren't able to chase after as much as they wanted. And of course, you saw the rest of the fight. Reason Gaming just ran them down. With now a 500, or rather a 5,000 gold advantage, very similar to how it was over the last couple minutes. Hasn't really changed all that much, but they have gained a ton of map pressure. And you can see those wards now encroaching into their jungle, especially on the top side here. But still, N Faculty are maintaining that vision control, at least in their own jungle.
But Reason need to get them deeper. Reason need to get deeper wards into the enemy jungle, make sure that N Faculty cannot clear them out, because they are ahead. They're significantly ahead, and you should be able to push, especially now that you've got the added pushing power from the second dragon. But N Faculty are very comfortable here in the top side. But Xaxus,
the combo onto Xaxus from Libic, but the flash forward and the shockwave. That was a Kubon from the flank as well. Was not expecting that one. 40 seconds on the death timer for Xaxus.
And you have to think, from here, do Reason look to maybe try and do a Baron here? They have the one-man advantage, and Kubon, or Xaxus, is a big part of that. Looks like they're actually being fairly indecisive about it. They perhaps want to push mid, but the only tower standing is the inhibitor tower, and with no minion wave pushing forward, they just don't have control of this. I don't think they're actually going to be able to get this tower, because Reason aren't going to get there before N-Faculty should be able to get to the defensive position.
Well, their minion line currently consists of a half health caster minion, so good luck with that, guys. Kuban will just go back to base. That was very indecisive.
They just did nothing from getting a kill on Zaz is pretty uncontested. When Xaxis is a major part, here comes a Pantheon ult.
Oh, Pantheon ult coming in, and Xaxis coming in to teleport from the back line. TakeFun goes down here. This is looking really good for N-Faculty, as Kuban is out of the fight. He teleported back to base. Celaver doesn't get tagged by the charm, though. Soz Purefect is still chasing after. Here comes the blue trinket. We're getting that vision down onto Celaver. Also gets the slow as well from Mountain. The pulverized combo will lock up a couple members, and Lipic may be the sacrificial cow here as Zayu now comes into the fight. Kuban's back from base, and they disengage successfully, only losing one man.
What do N-Faculty do from here, though? They got pretty much an uncontested pick there by Xaxis using that teleport in. That was just a lot clearer decision-making out of N-Faculty to jump straight on for that kill. And then Mountain didn't clear that pink. Go back for it, Mountain. Clear the pink. There we go.
Got it.
I was thinking, are they going for Baron now? But there's a pink. Okay, I was going to say a little bit clearer by N-Faculty, but this is a delayed decision that I'm not the keenest on. They've started a Baron here. Reason are closing in. They've got Baron to about half health. This is a very dangerous situation. If they'd have just gone for Baron, they probably could have had a better chance at doing it than attempting it then.
Right, and now N-Faculty have to back off. They're just trying to take the blue buff before Zayu comes in from the side. Celaver ultimate comes across, takes that one away from them as well. And now Obvious may be caught out. Kuban looking for his Equilibrium strike. Volatile spiraling from around the wall will interrupt the recall. And Sejuani's still in base. He's only now getting to the rest of his team with a Valkyrie. And now onto the Baron. This is an aggressive play from Reason Gaming.
I'm not sure what these guys are doing here. They've cleared out a couple of wards, but it's pretty obvious where they're going on this. Shockwave! Oh, that was huge.
The Shockwave. TakeFun knew what he was doing. Crescendo onto 4, but that doesn't matter. Mountain's going to go down as well. 3-0. Reason Gaming knew better than we did.
Well, Reason Gaming set up a perfect bait there as a great Shockwave. And as we said, if Corki dies to a Shockwave, his itemization really isn't going to affect that. That's going to be a Baron going over to Reason Gaming. And from here, they should have a fairly straightforward push down that middle lane.
Yeah, TakeFun must have a smile on his face right now. That double-person Shockwave onto both of the carries, taking them out of the fight, securing the Baron for his team. And he's farming so well in this game. 310 CS compared to his opponent only sitting on 233. That's resulted in an item difference as well, sitting on 3.5 items. And a fair chunk of change in the bank as well, 2,000. But let's take a look at that one again.
We didn't even see this coming as fast as it went. In the Shockwave mid-animation, no chance of getting away. That is a perfect setup from that ward. Crescendo was nice. It landed on about 4 people, but there was no damage to follow up. So
a surgical removal of the carries.
It was indeed. And then something else that's being done slightly surgically is the fact that Kuban went up to the top lane, make sure that his lane is pushing. Lane management, wave management is so important now that you have Baron. You want to be as aggressive as possible, and that was a very aggressive Pantheon ult that I guess we'll get to when that's a factor when they need it. But if you have all 3 lanes pushing, Irelia will be over in 1 lane split pushing, as Irelia always does, with the Baroned up minions. Bottom lane is pushing in as well. This is much better out of Reason than we saw from some of the teams yesterday of actually setting the lanes up.
Zayu now moving into this mid lane with the rest of his team. It will be Kuban in the top lane looking to split push. Repel comes up as soon as he notices that charm out of the bush. Could have been the pick that N-Faculty needed to give them a little bit of breathing room here. But Kuban and his army of minions is rapidly taking down this turret. And now the pressure is building up for N-Faculty. They still do have the inner ring of turrets.
This is why you don't give Kuban Irelia, though. He is so tanky, so difficult to kill, and it's his quintessential champion that now they pushed up.
Oh, the flash, the pulverize from Lipic knocks the carries into his team. Xaxis goes down, so does Corki. This looks like the end of this game for N-Faculty, a 3 versus 5, as Reason Gaming push into the base with those buffed up Baron minions. The top turret goes down, indeed so does the inhibitor, and they are being as methodical as they can about closing this out. They are taking the middle turret as well.
Yeah, they're just going to make sure they get as much from this as possible, but the shockwave wasn't even used in that engagement. That's a lot of damage still left in the tank here for Reason Gaming that should N-Faculty go for a last-ditch save attempt here, they are going to get met with a massive shockwave. And 16 kills to 5. Reason Gaming have looked a lot more comfortable, but they haven't looked a lot more aggressive in the early game, and I still think that's one thing they could do.
Indeed, but all of the inhibitors have gone down. The first Nexus turret falls, and Reason Gaming may decide to back off here as the entire lineup of N-Faculty is still alive. But either way, that was a crippling blow no matter what they decide to do from here.
They really can just sit here and end this game. There's no two ways about it. There's not a lot that N-Faculty from this position can do. 3 lanes of minions, although now Baron has run out. I guess Reason aren't quite used to the changes to Baron buff now on 4:21. It is only 3 minutes. It's not 4 anymore. Yeah. So that's a big factor, and this game continues.
Yeah, so N-Faculty actually hang on by the skin of their teeth. They are still alive and kicking, but at the moment, they just have to sit in their base. Skyfall comes down. Obvious jumps over the wall as well. There's the shockwave, knocks him away. Spear shot as well. And the true shot barrage from Celiva tells him to get away from his mid laner. And that's, again, a big ultimate and a flash burn from Obvious and no yield.
I'm scratching my head as to why they did all 3 turrets in inhibs and not just 2. They probably could have settled on 1. With the amount of damage reduction that minions now take, each melee minion with Baron buff takes 4 turret shots to kill because of that damage reduction. You can sit in front of those Nexus turrets quite happily with this kind of composition. They have the second dragon, it gives them the extra damage to towers. Towers are going to die pretty quickly, and I don't think there was enough threat on N-Faculty, knowing that TakeFun still had his ultimate available, that this game should have continued.
Well, N-Faculty is struggling even to clear out all of these super minions. That's 2 super minions per wave in every single lane.
And I mean, I know we've commented that Reason sometimes have difficulty closing out games, but that was a great opportunity to just put this one in the books. I don't think the result is going to be any different, but Reason have just dragged this out for, excuse the pun, no apparent reason.
Yeah, Xaxus did just use his ultimate there, knocks no one away. Again, the shockwave eliminates Xaxus from the fight. A good crescendo, but it's not going to make the blindest bit of difference as Celiva chases down Soz Purefect for the second kill. And as you mentioned, this will be the end of the game here, as all they need to do is finish off the Nexus. Here we go. Reason Gaming, maybe a little bit slow to close out the game, but will be taking the game 1 of this best of 5 in the elimination match at the LCS expansion tournament.
And Celiva went huge that game. 8-0-3, put him on a different champion. He was good yesterday as Graves. He's been great in this first game as Ezreal, and you have to think that's a big change up for Reason that maybe was what they needed here heading into this elimination series.
You also have to feel giving Kubon Irelia was maybe a bit of a slip there from N-Faculty. That was a major factor in that game. Split pushing all day. 2-1-12 was his final scoreline and had a huge impact on that game.
He did. I kind of would like to see Reason be more aggressive. Both teams just need to be more aggressive in the early game, because N-Faculty kind of just let Reason get an advantage and then took a dragon for themselves. But Reason just were kind of ahead, and neither team wanted to do anything for about 15 minutes into that game. And as Deficio and Krepo were talking about on the analyst desk, need to see more aggression out of these junglers.
Well, talking about the analyst desk, those are the facts. We'll see what the experts over the analyst desk think of that game.